So good evening, everyone. My name is Malvika. I actually have the fortune and the opportunity, but also super grateful to be speaking on a topic and interviewing him on a topic that I hold very dear to myself. I know it's definitely come up in conversations with my friends and my peers as well. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us, but also want to thank you for giving me this opportunity as well for the next 30 to 45 minutes that we're all together. So I'll pass it over to you. You can lead us through some prayers and then we can get started right away if that works.
Oh, thank you, Malvika. We'll just recite some prayers. We'll have these invocation prayers, and these invocation prayers in Sanskrit language are called as Mangalacharan, meaning that when you take shelter of these prayers, we perform these prayers, then there is all auspiciousness, right? So let's start. Om Ajnanathimidandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupādhaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Thank you. I think it's really important that we do those prayers as well because it really sets the environment and the atmosphere and the mood to be able to get some really deep answers to some of the common day questions that most of us have. So today's topic, just to give everyone kind of a refresher, is about building healthy, vibrant, loving, compassionate, and caring communities in the modern age, and understanding and going deeper and understanding what role does spirituality have within that, especially when we look at the society around us today. There's a lot going on that I'm sure can feel a bit disheartening. So how do we cultivate genuine, authentic relationships and really build a strong society despite some of the external forces that surround us? So I guess to get us started, one question that's right on top of my mind is, when you think about the term community, what does that personally mean to you, but also from a spiritual perspective? How would you define that? Oh, I think you're muted.
Yes, thank you. So this word community, immediately as soon as I just visualize this word community, what comes to my mind is, well, there are people. Community is made of people. And not just any random people, but people standing in a circle. Yes, all the people standing in a circle. But there is something which is there in the center. Yes. So people have a goal in center. Yes, they have a common goal in center, and there are multitudes. If we were to take a bunch of people, that can be a team. Then it goes on to, if you take another few more, it becomes kind of a group. A little more, it it might be a troop, and so on. Then a company, even in the army, right? There are so many brigade. We have all these terminologies, right? But when we talk about community, we're talking about multitudes. So multitudes having a common goal, having a purpose, that actually is community to me.
Okay, so I guess building on that a little bit, one thing you spoke about was a common goal. One thing I have experienced and I've also seen, I'm sure as many others may have seen, is this concept of individualism, right? Really focusing on myself and what's important for me and what I want to achieve, what I want to get out of any action that I'm doing. So, in a world that focuses on this aspect of individualism rather than collectivism, how would you build that community, and how would you actually understand the difference between an individualistic goal versus a collective goal?
Well, in my humble experience, even within a community, there can be people having their personal goals. That's totally acceptable because that's how we are. We live most of our times, of course, with the people. If you observe, that's how we are. We are called social beings, right? And because we are social beings, we tend to be interacting regularly with people. At the same time, we have different goals that are achieved and accomplished by meeting different members of maybe the very same community, right? So, well, it's totally acceptable for a person to be individual because as the beauty is, now here's where I like to bring about the very something called, it is called as unity in diversity. Yeah. So we all are diverse beings. We all are individuals. We are all different. Yes. So that's what is the pinnacle of a good community, where there is unity even among diversity. So definitely people will be individuals. Everybody may have their uh, personal necessities. I would call it needs. And they can have personal agendas. That's okay. As long and until it's in alignment with the values of the community. That's completely fine. Right? So so my take is yes, community is also made of individuals. But these individuals are having their own individual values, their traits, their skill sets to serve one another. But nevertheless, they are bonded with this community of having a common goal. Yeah.
And just to elaborate on that a bit further, in the Bhakti Yoga texts, one text in particular, the Bhagavad Gita, I know it speaks a little bit about this topic of unity and diversity. So, can you shed some teachings or some learnings from the Bhagavad Gita that speak about this topic, and kind of talk a little bit about working together towards a common goal, even though you have
Sure, sure,
individualistic characteristics?
sure. I can do that. Bhagavad Gita is a very beautiful scripture which broadly classifies individuals of a community into four types. There is an intellectual class, there is an administrative class, there is a mercantile class, and there is a labor class. These are the four classes which are present irrespective of time and age. Yes, they will always be because this is a system that is created by the divine, right? And now, if you see, even among the intellectual class who are contributing to the society, to the intelligentsia of the society, you will definitely find that everybody contributes uniquely and differently. When you look at the administrative class, some of them would be contributing in the field of protection, defense. Some of them would be contributing in terms of the direct administration. Some of them in public welfare. There are various sectors. Even among the mercantile class, some of them would be ensuring there is proper agriculture, there is proper trade, there is protection of those species of life which are very valuable to the humanity. Yeah. And then there are the laborers who are serving these other classes. So we have always been living in a society where there is a very healthy division, right? So there is a beautiful text that comes in the text which is called the postgraduate study of Gita, called the Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein we understand. But I'll just mention that particular phrase. This comes in the first canto Bhagavatam, chapter 2, text number 13, which says they all have a common goal, which is Sam Siddhir Hari Toshanam. Yes. the community of the intellectual, administrative, mercantile, and the labor class. All of them, they may be having their own skill set, their own mindset, their own contributions, but at the same time, they do it with one sense of purpose. That's what actually brings us to today's topic. A community becomes a spiritual community when it's God centric. So they all do their responsibilities and duties because they want to make it as an act of pleasing God. Yeah.
In today's society, we see that there's a lot of divisions, right? We see certain groups of people get treated differently based on their skin color, maybe it's based on some of the beliefs they hold, maybe based on some of the values that they also bring to the table. Um, and kind of what you spoke about right now, you know, really having a God-centered goal or divinity in the center to be able to work together regardless of how you look, how you dress, what you believe in. Um, how would that concept be applicable given the divisions that we see in today's society? And how do we rise to be able to invite divinity into a community in today's society?
Yes. We always have been talking about this particular concept called as work is worship, right? And many times people want to talk about this. Okay, our work is our worship. I'm not going to work, I'm going to worship. But when is work worship? Work is worship when there is a divinity involved. And the divinity in the society arises when there is emphasis given to spiritual education. Our modern day society has absolutely no dearth of technology and education towards the material sciences, which is good. But there is one particular science, which is the very essential science, which is often neglected, and that's the spiritual science. So we don't have to subtract or remove anything, but it's very essential in order to get the divinity factor. We start educating the commoners, the schoolgoers, the regular society folks in this particular spiritual education. And this entire the Bhakti Yoga Way initiative that we're having is for this very sole purpose, in order to add in spirituality in lives of people. And the very uh, basic of spirituality teaches us that actually we are not human beings on a spiritual journey. Now, we are actually spiritual beings on a human journey. That's the very elementary knowledge. So, this very spark of knowledge is something that initiates that divinity we're talking about. Understanding the basic difference and go between the body and spirit and going beyond this bodily conception. Because till the time we are in this bodily concept of life, materialistic concept of life, we will be subject to the various vices such as greed, anger, pride, lust, illusion, and envy. These are the vices we'll be tormented with. But as we arise above this bodily concept of life and start realizing the spiritual life, start realizing the true self, that sparks divinity and that takes us away from vice. There is one vice which is spelled as VICE. Yes, the vices. And when we conquer those vices, we become WISE, wise, the wisdom wise. Right? So from we are to move from vice to being wise by sparking the divinity, by educating our individuals and the community at large, eventually about the spiritual knowledge, which is there in most of the wisdom literatures. Yeah.
I like that. I like the fact that you made a connection between when we get rid of something that isn't serving us or isn't helping us understand, you know, what our true purpose is, then it opens up different avenues for us to be able to get that knowledge. So I'm definitely going to use that going forward. Um, I guess kind of shifting gears a little bit, you know, I was reflecting on the pandemic that feels like it was a really long time ago, but it was only 5 years ago. And during the pandemic, there was a huge, huge need for connection with others. Like you mentioned earlier, we're all social beings. So there was a huge need of connection. We couldn't see each other as much. You know, we had to socially distance ourselves. Sometimes it can feel a bit isolating when you're in a community. So, from a spiritual perspective, what steps would you take to find a soulful community or start to establish a soulful community for others?
Mhm. Okay. Well, how do we make a beginning? Well, we are making a beginning by emphasizing. It's very important that we start educating on various platforms, the online platform, the social media, offline platform, where we have a very nice, safe space, an environment where the willing individuals come and get this particular knowledge. They get this, become a part of the spiritual education. And well, age is just a number, but education is usually something that the youngsters undergo. Am I right? Usually if you find guys who are very young, they go for education. So we need to start educating a person when the person is having the regular material education. That's a good time for spiritual education. But nevertheless, any willing member of the society who's willing to try out, willing to explore, willing to eagerly understand the spiritual knowledge, well, should be given an opportunity to come ahead, associate, contemplate, reflect, and accept the spiritual knowledge. And what happens is the society today has been attacked. The pandemic is done with this coronavirus. We said the novel coronavirus, COVID-19. That is something which is it really uh, took out many guys out there. Many tough guys even were completely shattered by this virus. But there is yet a much more detrimental virus that is conquered the society, and that virus is the virus of ignorance. Yes, the virus of ignorance that has caught the society. And so the society is having this widespread cancer of ignorance. So we may not be able to cater to the entire world, but a group of individuals, if they happen to understand and implement the spiritual knowledge well enough, then these guys act like healing cells. Like in our body, there are some cancer cells and there are healing cells. When the healing cells are in plenty number, the body cannot be overtaken by cancer. But when the cancer cells exceed in number, well, and the healing cells fall down, then the spreads very rampant. Is the cancer of ignorance has very rampantly spread and has overtaken our society. So our humble attempt is to generate those healing cells who are spiritually aware, spiritually alert, awakened, and active. And some of them, out of those activated, who are activated spiritually, will turn out to be spiritual activators. Yes, the activated
Mhm.
turn out to be spiritually activators and go out there, and each one, as per their God given capacity, tries to activate more and more, and this good work carries on. Yes, it is very important that before we embark on the spiritual journey, we need to understand what is the necessity of spiritual life in itself. And if some group of individuals are convinced that spiritual life is not a question of interest, it's a question of need, and take up to this path um, to whatever degree they can commit to, they definitely will experience the true bliss and meaning and purpose of life when they embrace this path. And they can, once get activated, start becoming activators and activate more individuals. And this is how the healing will spread and the cancer of ignorance will be removed. That's the plan.
I like that. I guess my follow-up question to that is, what does commitment look like when one is seeking a spiritual path in trying to understand, where do they go from here? How do they get access to the network of spiritual activators? If you can touch a little bit on those 2 points.
Very well. Nice. To begin with, there are various teachers, preceptors of spiritual sciences who are available. But at the same time, if within your reach, I can say, within your vicinity, if you're having an opportunity that's knocked your door uh, to be spiritually conscious, especially at an age where we are young, we are able to comprehend stuff, that's actually a very golden opportunity, right? We need to accept such an opportunity and try out. Let's try our level best to understand. So, spirituality starts when we give a submissive hearing to this wonderful message. And when we hear, you get knowledge. You get knowledge. We are inspired to put it to practice. So, there are some spiritual practices. And as we perform the spiritual practices, we start seeing the results, which means the vices reduce and one becomes wiser. Yes. And when this particular, because spirituality is about transformation of heart from a mentality of greed to the mentality of abundance, the mentality of exploitation to the mentality of service, from mentality of anger to mentality of compassion, from mentality of lust to mentality of love. So the vices we transform them. We transform the vices into virtues and values. So we'll be able to perceive and see this result for ourselves when we practice for a substantial period of time, right? This happens. We'll be able to see it. So the commitment, the rock bottom commitment is to, at least on a weekly basis, be in touch with this spiritual association, a small peer group, and the spiritual association. Be in touch and try to attend the discussion. Now we having this particular thing online because I'm not there on site. So usually we start off with a very wonderful with mindfulness session on breathing. Breathing and relaxation become stress-free from all your work related stress. And then we have this kind of philosophical discussion. And each discussion we're trying to build it like it will be like building blocks which build our concept for spiritual life. And then we have a little bit of practice, the mantra magic with very nice musical instruments. And we end with a sacred meal. Yes, and with a discussion that we have where we churn and reflect what each and every one of us as individuals could grasp out of the discussion. We do that. That's how it works. But online things get a little challenging, but nevertheless, we're trying to do our best here.
Um, I guess one thing I've always been curious about is the role that leaders play in enforcing this cultivation of a respectful, caring, loving, and authentic community. So if you can talk a little bit about the role of leadership or the roles that leaders play in that cultivation and how we can support as individual contributors to that leadership.
Well, in my humble understanding, to some degree, even I've been a leader. The leaders have three roles. I'll call it the EEE role, three E's. Leaders have a role to educate. Number two, leaders have a role to empower. And then leaders have a role, most important role is to be an example. I'll come one by one. Educate as in leaders themselves have to be very clear with why we need spirituality, who are we, what's our relationship with the divine, what is our goal, what is the process. They need to be very clear with these things. Only then they can educate. If the leaders themselves are blind, not having proper answers to the basic questions of life, then such blind people might lead the other blind to a ditch. And that's what is the end that people are saying. The second E a leader has to do is to empower individuals, not just oneself remain the teacher. No, make more people take up to this path and empower them at different capacities to execute this wonderful good work. They keep doing that. And finally, the leader, what is most important expected, even if the leader is not doing the first two things, a leader is one who sets a very high class example, an example of spiritual practice and the right behavior, the right dealings, right? So these two, the right, I can say presentation and the right representation, where the representation makes more, it's of more value than the presentation because more things are caught than taught, right? So the leaders have a highest, I can say the highest duty that they can do to the society is to be the right example. And when they do this, there will be huge transformation in the hearts of people.
One closing question before we pass it off to the audience to ask you any questions. From your perspective, personally speaking, you've been practicing this path of bhakti yoga for a really long time, from my understanding. So you come with a plethora of knowledge and wonderful insights and reflections, I'm sure. What would you say would be your top 2 to 3 spiritual principles that we should focus on for ourselves individually to contribute to a really beautiful and nourishing and nurturing society today?
Thank you. The best contribution that can be made by individuals who are quite new to this path is to spiritually invest in oneself. That is the best contribution we can make at the moment. Yes, because we need to come and get exposed. We need to have more prolonged exposure of this particular path. And thus, whenever we have a chance, at least on a weekly basis, I would say minimum, on a weekly basis, we get to be a part of such kind of interactions. And another thing that we can definitely do to contribute is to spread the word around wherever we are. We might be in schools, the university, we might be in our workplace, where we look for similar like-minded individuals who are kind of interested in spirituality. We can pass on the word and bring more people. So these are the two key contributions that one can make uh, to themselves as well as to others, is to invest spiritually in yourself by coming to such kind of associations when we have it, and also at the same time spread the awareness by the word of mouth in whatever way by people, so that people get aware that such kind of a forum, a platform exists. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We'll pass it off to the audience if the audience would like to ask any questions or have any comments.
Yeah. Well, now it's all on you. I would love to hear something from Nathan, Anthony, Charles. Yeah, okay. I guess Nathan's got his hand up. Yeah, Nathan.
Good evening, everyone. Well, I was just wondering when in-person sessions will be available, or when we'll start having
It's gonna
in-person
start.
sessions.
It's gonna be
So
starting from next week,
next week.
right? You're a part of the group. So
Yes, I
stay
am.
tuned for updates. So from next week, we're going to be starting the in-person sessions. and we'd love to have you there. We'll have it at the university.
Okay.
And you're most welcome to invite all your friends as well. Whoever is interested, inclined, you're most welcome. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. Thank you. Anyone else would like to ask or say something? The floor is all yours. Charles Prabhu, you like to say something?
Yeah, I actually am not even Hare Krishna. I'm not even driving right now. So, um, um, just I think the questions that you asked today and answered today are kind of relevant to a crisis that I am currently trying to figure out about my own journey and how it's important and uh, how to like the fact that you have to shift your focus from anger to other things and to go from like lusting for things and to loving for things and just um it's relatable to a mini crisis, I guess, that's happening within me today. So I was really happy and touched to join today to hear um kind of how sometimes it just works out. And I guess Krishna is a mysterious person, right? And gives you the information you need right when you need it, right when you're about to give up and you're ready to say like the heck with everything and I'm done, and you're ready to throw it and give up. It's something reaches out and touches you and pulls you back in. So kind of today's questions, I think, pull to make you realize why it's important, how it's important, and why like some of the association is also important. So I'm happy that you guys touched on those topics today.
Yes, so I'd like to thank Malvika. She's the one who did it. Thank you. Thank you, Charles Prabhu. And I would like to hear something from the others. Nandini, you there? Would like to say something?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I just wanted to say, I'll show my face here. I'm not really doing anything either. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you for discussing all these things today. I think kind of like what Charles had said earlier, I think it's important to be able to discuss these things. I know that sometimes when I talk to people like friends and things like that, it's a little bit difficult to explain. Some people are not really 100% sure. Like they ask, like, oh, what's your religion or what's your background? And it sometimes is a little bit more harder to explain to people. So I think that even talking about these things and discussing these things it makes it a little bit more clear for giving people answers. And then even wanting to share or wanting to invite people to come, it makes it a little bit easier to have these kinds of conversations, because I think that association is a very big thing. You don't realize how much it influences the people you hang around with, your friends, how you speak, how you see the world. It's very easy to kind of get dragged down into like the negative loops of things. So yeah, I appreciate the conversations that we had today for sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of this, and
Yeah,
also giving you valuable insights on this conversation that we had. Thank you, dear friends. So I would say that's a wrap up around what we discussed today. I'm looking forward to meeting you all in person very soon. Thank you so much. See you all. Hare Krishna.